Hey guys, Brian here with Mana Beast doing a deck profile on my Shadow Paladin Witches, which is one of the, hey, I kind of rhymed there, which is one of the more fun decks I have. It's it's a mix between being fun and trollish and just odd all at the same time because it's got its own little special mechanic. So let's start here with the Grade 0, which is Witch of Banquet's Leer. Ability is auto. Put this unit into soul. When attack hits a Vanguard during the battle, this unit boosted. If your Vanguard is Legion, you may pay the cost, which of course is putting this unit into soul. If you do, search your deck for up to 2 Grade 0 cards called on Rearguard as rest and shuffle your deck. So a very nice way to search out 2 specific Grade 0s, which we'll talk about later, but we'll go over that here in a second. Alright, let's go with Grade 3s then here. We're going to run 4 of the Cultist Witch Rias. Cultist Witch Rias ability is, of course, Legion. You know how that goes. Put 5 cards from your drop zone back into your deck and then search for the mate. Do a Legion thing. Then its auto ability is choose one of your rearguards with Witch in its card name and retire it. When this unit legions, you may pay the cost, and if you do, choose one of your opponent's Vanguards, and that unit gets minus 5,000 for each of your opponent's Grade 0s until the end of turn. Grade 0 Rearguards until the end of turn. So this whole deck revolves around putting Grade 0s out into their field. So the more Grade 0s they have on the field, the more of a disadvantage they're going to be at. And the other ability is Act, Counterblast 2, choose one of your opponent's Rearguards, and your opponent reveals the top 5 cards from the top of his or her deck, chooses a Grade 0 from them, and calls it to that Rearguard and shuffle his or her deck. Now, mind you, they're going to look at the top 5, and they do have to choose a Grade 0 if they find it in the top 5. However, if they don't, nothing happens to the Rearguard. But this is a way for you to then force Rearguards onto the field with Grade 0 so you can pop off the Legion ability. Really, really dickish card. The other card, which I would say is more the main card of the deck here, is going to be Mesmerizing Witch Fianna. Of course, has the Act ability for Legion. Other ability is Act, Counterblast 2. If this unit is in Legion, choose up to 2 of your opponent's Rearguards, and your opponent reveals 10 cards from the top of his or her deck, chooses a Grade 0 card equal to the number of Rearguards chosen from among them, calls that card to separate Rearguards, and shuffle his or her deck. So essentially it's the same cost as Rias, except in my opinion it's a much better payoff for the cost because you're going to get 2 Grade 0s on the field off the top 10. Pardon me, let me make sure it's, from the top 10 cards instead of here, which is from the top 5 of the deck with Rias. So in my opinion, better cost for what you get. And much better idea. Then Act, choose a Rearguard with the same card name as this unit in Vanguard. Retire it, and if the number of Grade 0 Rearguards your opponent has is 2 or more, draw 2 cards, and this ability cannot be used for the rest of that turn. So this is a good way for you to fill up your drop zone easily for Legion abilities, and then give you hand advantage as well. So by this point, usually you're going to have your opponent having 2 Grade 0s on the field, especially if you use this ability here, the Counterblast 2. So really good ability to mess with your opponent's field. Grade 2s, I am running 2 of the Grade 2 10k vanilla. I'm not running the other part of the Legion because the Grade 3 is not worth running. I could run other cards, but this is a 10k vanilla. It's a good body if I ride it. It's still a good Rearguard for attack, so I do run it. I do wish there was a couple better options, but for now, this is what I'm running. I am running 1 and only 1 Nemain, Skull Witch Nemain. I don't know how many times I've run like 2 or 3 and I ride this thing and I'm like, well, this is going to suck. So I choose not to run more than 1. Its ability is choose a Shadow Paladin from your hand and discard it. When this unit places Rearguard, if you have a Shadow Vanguard, you can pay the cost. If you do, draw 2 cards. So again, this is to help mill your hand out and give you hand advantage as well. And then, of course, our other 2 Grade 2s are the Legion mates here. So this is our Witch of Reality. She is our 12k attacker. If we have a Witch, Vanguard Witch in its card name, it gets an extra 3k, and it's a 12k attacker. And it's the mate for Fianna, so double bonus. Now the other mate here for Rias is Inspection Witch. Her ability is when this unit is placed on rearguard, if you have a Vanguard with Witch in its card name, you pay the cost, which is Soul Blast 1. If you do, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, and your opponent chooses a grade 0 from his or her drop zone and calls that card to rearguard. So to me, even though Rias isn't as good as Fianna, her mate is amazing, because when it hits the field, if you do actually have opponent's rear guards, you can then again mess with their field, make them put more grade 0s on the field for the cost of a Soul Blast 1. So really, really good cost. All right, let's move into grade 1s here. We are going to run our old friend, Witch of Nostrum. Classic drop and draw, you know how it goes. Although in this deck, it's a 7k, and dropping and drawing early in the deck is no problem at all, because that helps you gain card advantage and fill up your drop zone for Legion skill without wasting guards. So still a good card, a great turn 1 ride, and still a great ride if you're wanting to get off abilities early with Legion. So 3 of those. We are then also running 3. This is Witch of Quests. This here is an auto ability. When this unit is placed on rearguard, if your Vanguard with Witch in its card name is Legion, and the number of grade 0 rearguards your opponent has is 2 or more, you may pay the cost, which is simply choosing one of your other rearguards with Witch in its card name and retiring it. If you pay that cost, choose one of your opponent's Vanguards, and that unit gets minus 5,000 until the end of turn. So the funny thing is that this combo with Rias can make your opponent get down to some like really stupid, ridiculous numbers. Like, let's just say they have 3 grade 0s on the field, and you popped off Rias's ability. Well, then of course they're going to get minus 15,000, and then with this they're going to get minus 20,000. So now you're able to hit your opponent's Vanguard, and they're at minus 9k. So that's really good, and then it makes funny cards like the mains can actually hit your Vanguard. So it's really stupid good, and helps to neg them. Even if you don't have Rias on the field, let's say if you have Fianna, you can still neg them fine and make it harder for them to guard. The other grade 1 we're going to run here is 3 of Witch of Precious Stones. This ability is when this unit is placed on rearguard, if you have a Vanguard with Witch in its card name, you may pay the cost, which is a Soul Blast 1. If you do, choose one of your opponent's rear guards. Your opponent chooses a grade 0 from her drop zone and calls it to rearguard. So very much like the grade 2, except it's a grade 1, does the same exact thing, helps you to be able to mill their hand out and get grade 0s out of the field for abilities. And then of course with grade 0s, they have less attack power. For our Perfect Guards, we're going to run 2 Dark Revenger Maclear for the regular Perfect Guard, and then we are running 2 of the Barrier Witch Quintet Wall. Couple reasons why. We do use Counterblast in this deck, not a ton. It's not a very, very super heavy Counterblast deck. It is a Witch name card. I go back and forth between doing a 3-1 and a 3 and a 2-2. I'm experimenting with 2-2 right now because again, I don't mind using Quintet Walls. I think in this deck it's very effective, and it helps to fill up your drop zone and also helps to fill the putback triggers when you hit Legion. So I'm kind of experimenting with it here. So let's go on to triggers here. We are actually going to run first 4 draw. Okay. Then we're going to run 4 crit. And we're going to run 4 heal. And then we are going to run 4 stand. Now these stands are very special, and remember what I said earlier about our grade 0 starter. So this is our stand trigger. The ability is when this unit is placed on rearguard, if you have a Vanguard with Witch in its card name, and the number of grade 0 rearguards your opponent has is 2 or more, I am able to soul charge 1 and choose a card from my damage zone and turn it face up. So this is a damage unflipper. So, you know, when we're comboing with cards such as this, not only can we neg your opponent, but then we're also able to get abilities such as unflipping damage, so we can reuse Quintet Wall, so we can reuse Vanguard abilities. And this is the card you want to use once you have Legion. So, for instance, before you actually hit your Legion, you can do abilities through Fianna and do the Counterblast 2. Then if it hits, call this out, your Soul Charge 1, and then you go ahead and unflip 2 if you've had 2 rear guards that are grade 0s on your opponent's side of the field. So then it essentially makes that cost free, which is really awesome. And to me, running rainbows is good because stand triggers are effective in this deck, because once you neg your opponent minus 15, minus 20, that's giving you a boost every time you stand up, and you're able to do some really big damage to your opponent. So that's the Witch deck profile in a nutshell. Of course, if you guys have any comments or opinions about the deck, please post in the comments below, and we'll see you guys next time.